Hi there, this is my video review of Tender is the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald was born in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1896. He attended Minnehaha's rivalry, St. Paul Academy, and received further education at Princeton University. In 1917, Fitzgerald joined the Army, during which he wrote his first successful short stories. Motivated by his early successes, he went on to become a well-known published author by the age of 23. In 1920, he married Zelda Sayer, who is very relevant and incorporated almost all of Fitzgerald's work. The wealthy couple spent their time vacationing and living at the top of the socioeconomic hierarchy. One of the most famous American novels, The Great Gatsby, was published in 1925 and consumed the majority of Fitzgerald's emotional energy, resulting in Zelda's mental breakdown in 1930. She was sent to a psychological rehabilitation center, and Fitzgerald developed his own symptoms of depression and alcoholism following this establishment. He encased himself into his writing and wrote about both his own life experiences with Zelda and his life, and of the people who surrounded him in his same social hierarchy. He died of a heart attack while writing at the age of 44. Tender is the Night is a novel that truly spoke straight from Fitzgerald's heart. The book is separated into 3 different books. The first introducing the main conflicts and presenting the characters, the second giving the backstory of 2 of the main characters, and the third concluding the story. In the first book, we are first introduced to Rosemary Hoyt, who is a rising American actress of 17 years. She is vacationing on the French Riviera with her mother. The social scene that they are emerged into is full of lavish, gracious, and luxurious people who are amongst the higher socioeconomic groups in the world. She meets Dick and Nicole Diver and almost instantly decides that Dick Diver is the man of her dreams. Rosemary and the Divers become acquaintances, and Rosemary dives into their world head first, knowing little of what lies ahead of her. Initially, Dick, a man of 30-some years, does not reciprocate the feelings that Rosemary has, but in time he does become physically attracted to her youthfulness. They have an affair while spending time in Paris shortly before Nicole has a mental psychotic break, ending Book 1. Book 1 mostly elaborates on the vulnerability that youthfulness has and how easy it is to manipulate that. Book 2 started with the introduction of Dick Diver when he was fresh into his professional field as a psychiatrist and at the start of his relationship with Nicole, one of his patients. Nicole was admitted into the institution that Dick was employed to because of her vulnerability as a youth and the sexual abuse that happened with her father in her home in Chicago. She had become afraid of men, but falls in love with Dick as she feels he had taken care of her in a way that no man ever could have. The couple has 2 children and lives very luxuriously as Nicole has a lot of family money. Dick Diver is invited back into the medical field after focusing on his family by opening a clinic in Switzerland. At this point, many mishaps start to occur. Nicole's mental health starts to degrade, and Dick falls back into his habit of seducing young women, even those who are family of patients in his own clinic. He begins drinking and grows symptoms of depression and alcoholism. One night, he goes out drinking with an old friend and ends up in jail, needing Nicole's sister, Baby, to help bail him out. This is Nicole's lowest point in the novel and in his life. Book 3 takes off from this point, as Dick is asked to step down from the clinic and as the divers return to the French Riviera. Nicole's mental health continues to worsen, as does Dick's alcoholism. And their marriage starts to fall apart as like the beginning of the end. Yeah, the beginning of the end of their marriage. 5 years later, Rosemary returns to the Riviera as a young woman of age 23. Dick and Rosemary pick up their affair, and they have sex, as Rosemary had wanted since they first met when she was 17 years old. 5 years ago, Dick's ethics had stood in the way of them going any further than a kiss and a handhold, but as his marriage had started its end and his alcoholism and depression peaked, his morals and ethics were almost non-existent. Around the same time, Nicole has an affair with a longtime lover, Tommy Barbin, and she decides that she wants to officially end her marriage with Dick for once and for all. They divorce and go their separate ways. Concluding the novel, Nicole's depression has practically vanished as her relationship with Tommy grows deep, which implies that Dick was of no help. In fact, he may have worsened her conditions, and Dick travels the world, ending up back in America. And this is how the novel concludes. The 2 main themes in this novel are reputation and youthfulness. Reputation can cause a lack of moral and ethical judgment as well as reasoning, and people of a high status will do anything and everything to protect it. Youthfulness is attractive because of its glowing vulnerability and ability to manipulate easily. My evidence in regarding to my theme of reputation, pages 88, 90, 94, and 101 and 167 all have the same quote. Do you mind if I pull down the curtain? This is the narrator speaking it, but usually it comes from Dick's mouth, and it's always resulting in a conversation about Rosemary or Rosemary and Dick themselves having the affair, and it's basically just saying, hey, let's pull down the curtain and let's hide from the light. At every point that "can I pull down the curtain" is said, it's always followed by "please do, it's too light in here." My understanding of this is that it's concealing the truth, it's concealing the light, which is truth, and it's taking away that, and it's going to the darkness to conceal this relationship that they're having in order to protect their reputation. Another example of reputation is Dick's parties. On page 76, Dick elaborates on his parties, saying, his parties were all concerned with excitement, and a chance of breath of fresh air was more precious for being experienced in the intervals of excitement. Dick wanted to remind people that he was exciting and new, and that his parties were to be ones that people look forward to, just as Gatsby's, as frankly as that is, Fitzgerald always wanting to throw in a big party. He wanted to continually tell people how extravagant he and the rest of his diver family was, and how important it was for them to uphold their reputation of being the best in the crowd and being the most exciting and being the most interesting. The last example I have in regarding to my reputation theme was he resented the wasted years at New Haven, but mostly he felt a discrepancy between the growing luxury in which the divers lived and the need for display which went along with it, which is on page 165. Dick is describing how when he was relatively impoverished and living in America, he was still somewhat satisfied with his life. Yet now that he had been immersed in this high-demand social lifestyle, he felt the need to consistently validate his dignity and worth by upholding his high reputation. The evidence regarding my theme for youthfulness include, you're the only girl I've seen for a long time that actually did look like something blooming, which is quoted on page 22. This is Dick blatantly telling Rosemary that she is attractive because she looks young and immature and youthful. She is 17 years old. He is like 32 and a half. Like, that's disgusting. And he's telling her, he's allowing her to have feelings for someone who's double her age, and he's embracing the fact that he is so much older than her because he is so attracted to youngness. He is so attracted to fresh and new. And throughout the entire novel, youngness and the idea that, you can be clean and fresh and pure is one of the most attractive things in his social scene, and especially in Dick's head as he enters his clinic and his whole relationship with Nicole. Which brings me to my second piece of evidence, which is saying, people used to say what a wonderful father and daughter we were. They used to wipe their eyes. We were just like lovers, and then all at once we weren't lovers. This is Mr. Warren, Nicole's father, speaking to Dick as he is admitting his daughter, she's 17 when she's admitted, admitting his daughter into the psychiatrist mental facility that she's in. And he's basically explaining, like, wow, like, she's a fear of men, like, I don't know how this happened. And then he blatantly says, like, yeah, like, we had a sexual relationship, we were lovers. And we know that he took advantage of her at a point where she was very vulnerable because her mother had just died a month previous to this incident, and 10 months after the sexual abuse, she had just become depressed and anxious and afraid of men. She would, have stories of how people around her wanted to attack her and stuff because she was just constantly infiltrated with the idea that paternal father figures could just abuse her like that. And this all happened when she was a youth, and it explains and elaborates on the fact that youthfulness is beautiful in a way, but it's vulnerable and it's pure, but it's also so easily taken advantage of and abused. And I think that's a really crucial part of this whole story, is just how easy youthfulness can be manipulated. And how pure it is and how easy it is and how loving it is, and how at the same time it can just be drastically on this other whole side of the spectrum. And there we have it. That is my video response to Tender is the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Ironically, it's a lot different than Gatsby, but a lot the same at the same time. Tender is the Night is a lot more about Fitzgerald's life and less about what Fitzgerald wanted his life to look like, because it talks about, you know, Zelda's mental break, and Zelda is directly represented as Nicole, and you know, Fitzgerald's alcoholism, Dick's alcoholism, you know, it just kind of goes hand in hand. And I highly recommend it to anyone who read Gatsby and enjoyed it and enjoyed Fitzgerald, because this is basically Fitzgerald's life.